Subchapter 4.2. Before Catherine and Odie met with Shinpo, they stood at the rail overlooking the house's reception area and watched Salum being led into the conference room. On the other hand, Salum was unaware that the android and bot on the upper level were watching, perhaps the last members of the house staff to see him alive.
If you really must know, you may call me Diggs.
Not that it mattered much, but Salum knew the name was an alias. But he felt he had a right to know the name of the man who would be taking his life, so he asked. Diggs prepared his computer on the conference table, he on one side, Salum sitting, facing him on the other.
Do you know why I am here?
Everyone is aware of last night's incident. Yes, including Nabu. The loss of 2.3 billion galactic crowns does not go unnoticed. The house can compensate. We have the funds. You have the funds, but can you pay the price? Salum kept silent as he contemplated what Diggs meant by the price. Ironic, isn't it? Salum thought for a second. What is? How you attained your position as Master of Sales at this auction house. The previous Master of Sales lost favor with Nabu for failing to see the weaknesses in security that gave data thieves an advantage. You replaced him, and now here we are. Again. Nothing's changed except the one in charge. We made changes. All sales records are now encrypted. Toughened security measures throughout the entire complex. Diggs smiled. And how well did that work out? Salem looked down, silent. Not getting an immediate answer, Diggs tapped at his computer. Images sprang up on the screen above the computer. 2 armed men running among pallets on the loading dock, barely visible through a heavy fog. Do you know these 2 men? Asked Diggs. No. One is human, the other, not of Ducas. I believe he is Eubinian. These 2 men stole the data from your computers, then escaped with a sizable portion of Nabu's property, much of which was scattered through the streets of Pazim. It will profit them nothing. The data is encrypted. Not for long. You are aware of a Eubinian's reputation? They are skilled technicians. Diggs tapped his computer again, and the image changed. It now showed a different angle on the loading dock. 2 men seated in a tug and a third figure standing to one side, gun drawn. A hood over this third person's head hid his face from view. The fog from the clouding device also made identification nearly impossible. This person intrigues me. He is attempting to steal the container train from his accomplices.
He was not successful.
What does it matter? A portion of Nabu's wealth is lost, and he demands compensation. As I have stated earlier, we are able to cover the losses. Plus penalties. Penalties? The meaning behind paying the price sank in on Salum. Diggs stared at Salum in silence. Salum considered his place on the tightrope, for the firm ground that was once beneath his feet had crumbled and fallen into an abyss. And from that abyss rose the image of his greatest possession, the one thing for which he was willing to trade his life.
If I may appeal to Nabu's mercy, Salum began. Please take all my assets in this house to pay any penalties due. Take my life as well. But I implore you, sir, spare my only daughter, Maji.
Diggs stood over Salum and said nothing, as he knew as well as Salum that in this shady business, the only guarantee given to those in his position was that there were no guarantees. Everything was in play. Maji, be careful. Catherine was having second thoughts of bringing Maji outside. To give her some freedom to roam and get much-needed exercise had seemed an excellent idea to Catherine at the time while Maji was eating her lunch. But now, seeing her constant wandering through the landscaping around the house, poking her head in and out of bushes, pulling leaves off trees, and tossing rocks of various sizes in every direction, Catherine was about to cut their expedition short. On top of that, the sky had turned dark with a blanket of overcast clouds, threatening rain. Maji often found a particular rock, flower, or leaf that appealed to her and brought it to Catherine as a gift. In a short amount of time, Catherine had her hands full of miscellaneous items the girl had found in the yard. Catherine held on to her gifts, intending to discard them discreetly before returning to the house. Maji stopped at a tree and picked at its bark, pulling long strips from its slender trunk. Catherine tried to make sense of the girl's laser focus on mundane details and her intermittent chattering that shed no light on what was going on in her head. As she contemplated this, various birds flew in one by one and rested on the tree's branches. This sort of activity in nature would not have been startling besides the fact that the birds were filling the one tree that had drawn Maji's interest, and only that tree. Catherine noticed there were several other trees in the area, but were devoid of birds. Maji moved on. She ran to a footbridge that spanned a narrow pond of water. At the bridge's center, Maji leaned over the side and gazed at the water below. Catherine followed and, seeing the girl's precarious position, prompted her to give Maji the warning to be careful. Catherine joined Maji on the bridge and followed her gaze on the water. Amphibious creatures about the size of a river trout swam in the dark waters, their skin a deep blue with splashes of yellow in random patterns on their backs and sides. They appeared more like fish than frogs, their fin legs propelling them in serpentine tracks just below the surface. Some crawled up on rocks at the water's edge and bobbed their heads before sliding back down. Maji squealed with delight. "Dog, dog, 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 dog." Catherine smiled. "Maji, these are not dogs." "Dog, dog, 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 dog." Catherine's smile faded as she noticed the frogs forming a group. The water creatures were paddling in from distant areas of the pond, gathering right below Maji. They poked their heads above the water and gulped mouthfuls of air, seeming to return Maji's call. Catherine processed this and concluded that the animals were expecting to be fed.
And what about the birds that had exhibited the same behavior?
She was so intent on understanding the meaning of what she was witnessing that Catherine did not perceive the approach of the two men in her blind side.
"You there! What are you doing?"
Catherine spun around. She greeted the visitors with a polite bow of her head.
"Good afternoon, sirs. I am taking Maji for a walk."
Catherine recognized the man with the staff as the human who had led Salum into the conference room earlier in the day. The other man was most likely an associate or an aide.
"Who are you?"
Diggs asked.
"My name is Pim, and this is Maji, Master Salum's daughter. I am Maji's caretaker, and I'm taking her for a walk around the house."
"You're an android."
"Yes." "Made in the likeness of a human. Were you made on Earth?"
"That is a likely assumption, sir."
"You may address me as Diggs. I represent Lord Nabu. Why do you assume you were made on Earth? You're not sure?" "I have no memories before I was acquired by Master Salem."
"Explain."
"The best theory proposed is that I was stolen and abandoned."
Catherine noticed some movement behind Diggs. Two men guided a long cart out the front door of the house. On the cart, she saw what appeared to be a long black bag about the size that would hold a Dukisi body. Diggs glanced over his shoulder, then back to Catherine.
"There has been a change in leadership in the House of the Yellow Lantern."
Catherine watched the men push the cart to an awaiting vehicle at the side of the house. "I see." Maji leaned far over the bridge's safety railing.
"Dog, dog, dog, dog."
Diggs saw her balanced there on her waist between one side and the other.
"Keep watch on the girl, Caretaker Pim. How tragic it would be if she were to fall and hurt herself."
Diggs walked on, leaving Catherine with Maji. Catherine looked at the stadium nearby, feeling an urge to leave this house and get on with what she had come to do.